Previously on Represented.
I take it like water flow, like it's gonna hit some corners, some bumps. You know how like rivers flow and then it's like at a certain point it's faster than others. And I think Kenya has those moments where it's like, why did I move back here? And like for me now, the space in between those moments is widening, but it's taken a while to get to the place where you're like, oh, I got this. Like I speak the language, I speak the hustle, and there's still parts of it that I'm still not conversant in, like the Kenyanness, because Kenya has a Kenyan thing about the way things happen that like you really need to be a Kenyan and immerse yourself, which takes time. It takes time, yeah. So I've released that part of myself. When it comes, I'm aware that's what I'm having at this moment, and I let it go because I've also watched a lot of my friends come and go back just because they couldn't deal with, and it has never gotten to that point for me. It's always been like, yeah, it's really messed up, but I'm here to stay.
Hi, I'm Jamie Mack. Welcome to the Represented Podcast.
My name is Mick Narciso, and you are listening to the Represented Podcast.
What's up? My name is Robert Mudhama, aka Lucid.
Hi everyone, my name is Noni Rupia, and you're listening to Represented Podcast.
A journey through the lives of everyday people such as yourself.
Check me out in episode 2 of season 1.
Listen to me on episode 9, season 1.
Episode 7 of season 1.
I think I couldn't be more happier and more like myself now, I feel.
It opened my eyes to why I think and feel the way I do,
And they inadvertently teach me how to be more creative.
And I'm excited to share that story.
How is it like for you having grown up in a Kenya that was so different to the Kenya that you found?
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, is Kenya a better place from what you left in 96? Would you consider it a better place or?
I really hate those good, better, best kind of things, right?
Okay.
Because like in
What's-
some ways
what's
it's
different?
better,
Yeah.
in some ways it's not. I think it's better 100% on the terms of, in the basis of like choice. Like choice to just pursue what it is that you want to pursue. I think there was a time in Kenya where like young people were so suppressed, or I don't want to say oppressed, suppressed in terms of like expression. It's no longer that. So I grew up in a Kenya where like guys used to say like our president's name in whispers and fear, and then now we kind of call out Uhuru on Twitter. So that is maybe not necessarily great, but the fact that we have that freedom of expression for me is really exciting as an artist also, because in those days, like you had to kind of be connected to really go. Other than like the Jimmy Gathus, there wasn't many people doing much, especially on the visual side. One of my classmates at the time, before I left Kenya at the Creative Arts Center, is now like a big time artist here in Kenya and globally, which is exciting. But there are people who stuck it out here and it's worked out for them. But for the most part, it was a very suppressed environment to be a creative person, and also the perceptions of people, because parents had not seen success in artistry. So like, no, you're not going to go and be an artist, you're going to go and do science or mathematics. Thankfully, I did not come from that kind of a background. Our parents were very supportive of, what I wanted to do. So yeah. What's not better? Just the whole environment, like just how filthy, how cheap everything is in terms of values, and like we really have become cheap people. I don't know how else to say it, but I think it's that whole aspect of corruption. It has brought another cheapness to Kenyans that I think is
like relationships,
right. Like
all
everything
that,
is up for grabs. There's a price to everything. Yeah. So like, the cheapness of things, the cheapness of an environment, the cheapness of like what it takes to get a shilling here and there, the cheapness of like even God, like how we misuse church and religion, you know, like everything is cheap. But I also think that's a global issue right now.
Yeah.
So there's something I feel like spiritually, globally is happening in terms of just the cheapening of life.
Yeah. In terms of career and stuff, have you always, I guess you've always had kind of the freedom to explore your artistic side in terms of what you, like it's always been a part of what you're doing to earn money and also your life interests and stuff. Do you have other interests outside of that have kind of kept you going generally?
Career-wise, not really, because I think I've always kind of started, other than the survival jobs you do in America, I've kind of always been very clear
What
about
was your
this.
first job in America?
Wow. My first job in America was, I used to work in the school library, part-time, which was like 20 hours a week. And at the same time, I used to work in a factory, a printing factory. So we used to print like Essence magazine and Ebony magazine. The only good part is like I used to read this stuff before
of time.
and that was before internet, so magazines were still hot.
Yeah.
So yeah, we used to do like Sports Illustrated, like all these magazines used to be printed at the press where I worked. So yeah, that was my first job. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
And so right now, in terms of Moko Maya, like, do you have what's your vision for it? And also, is there anything? Okay, I'm asking because I know there's something coming up, but would you like to tell us what's coming up?
So I'm going to be part of a market in Karen that is basically an opportunity for local, I want to say creative people. I hate that word creatives because it's like it includes so many people as an umbrella. Like, but anyway, yeah, creative people who will be showcasing like the different things that they're doing, as well as access to the farm, where the farm that will be hosting the event will also be allowing farm tours, and they have like fresh farm products that they're.
What's the name of the farm?
It's Adventures Farm Karen. Yeah, so that's exciting for me because it's like the first event I've ever done where we're going to get to show what we are making and hopefully sell some of our pieces. Yeah.
So like in terms of being a firstborn, I'm switching gears. In terms of being, I'm just curious, like in terms of being a firstborn kid, this is interesting because I'm the lastborn and you're the firstborn, so we're the extremes. You know our parents are way, I'll never know them.
True.
You know what I mean?
It's a blessing and a curse both ways, your way and my way. At least how I look at it. I look at it as the parents who raised me are the ones who raised you, because they're also evolving as people. And so like, but also I had the gift of like very young parents. Yeah. So like at the time, they were able to do things that today they're not necessarily going to do. And they were just different people, right? I have the gift of being able to watch them evolve as people and also to see what family is. Like, like a lot of times people see the finished thing. And then for me, I have the gift of like, yeah, if you want one of these things, like you have to work, you know? And it's just seeing what a gift. Okay, I'm a bit obsessed with like the whole family idea because I think we have a cool family. And not just cool for the sake of cool, but just like we come from a very grounded space, I think. Yeah, it may not be perfect, but I think it's a privilege to come from to be children of our parents. Yeah, I don't know how else to put it, but yeah. So just watching the diligence it takes to have a unit that is standing this many years later and be successful at doing that, I think it has given me a real perspective on, when we say you want to get married or you want to have a family. Are you willing to do, because some of it is like, man, can you just like cut through all that and just get
to the happy place?
Yeah, get to the happy place. Because I think like this time is so exciting for me to see them and just watch their interactions. I think that as you get older, you get very sure and clear about who you are and who you're not. And that goes even for me, So just being able to now meet them from a place of like friendship, when you're young, it's more of an authoritarian relationship. And now it's a matter of respect. And yes, they still are the authority, but also it's like they don't need to exercise their authority. You just have to be respectful, and it kind of works out. And then, of course, there's also like a little like, oh God, like why do I have to be the firstborn? Because there's those things that come with being a firstborn.
Like what?
Okay, so like being a firstborn, there's always that call to be like better than the younger ones. Like suck it up, like you're the old one, yeah. So if there was like when you're children, especially when you're young, there's just this whole idea of like, yeah, whatever, take care of your sisters and your brother. Like you come last in a sense, because it's like you're the older one, so you should know better, you should do better, and that sense of responsibility. Yeah, but it also, you have to catch yourself, I think, as a firstborn, because you become an adult pleaser so early, because it's like, okay, if I just do these things and be like the older child, and then you don't even realize as you get older how much of a adult pleaser you are, or at least I didn't realize until I was like, whoa.
What does adult pleasing involve?
It means doing in spite of how you feel. Yeah. So obedience that is not necessarily like, you know how like you can be obedient but it sits right within your soul, like your inside is telling you like, no, I just want to do this, but then it's like you find yourself always doing the dutiful thing and not necessarily always going for you first, because you've kind of like always got that thing in your head. I don't like that.
Yeah.
I remember like I recently, like, let me tell you a stupid story. Recently on Twitter, someone started a thread for firstborns. So the idea was like, oh my God, like the struggle of firstborns is real. And then it was the first time I have read something that had the language for what has happened. So this person was like, the conversation got so big that firstborns all over the world were like, let's just get a WhatsApp group and like share and support one another. So yeah, someone created like a WhatsApp group. The group got so big that it ended up being like 4 or 5, and I joined one. But within like a few hours, I was like, okay, firstborns, I can't. Because then I also realized we don't have the same issues. I think we have some things that connect us, but yeah, that got tiring very quickly. But the thread was so exciting.
As a person, do you do you feel like you've reached a place in your life where you're comfortable with who you are?
For the most part, yeah. I think self-acceptance and self-awareness is a journey, yeah? So you can accept yourself, but then there's this like a thing, you know, like you're still working on it. So it's never finished, yeah? And I think that's kind of like finished when you're in the grave. I think it would be arrogant to say that you have
you're
fully,
done,
you know, like you're done,
Yeah,
you know. But yes, for sure, like the thought of going back to my 30s, 20s makes me cringe. Like I don't want to go through that kind of confusion anymore. And so I'm grateful for the clarity with which this part of my life has come with.
What are some of the things that made you more clear about who you are?
Again, it's a journey. I don't think it was like one thing
happening. What
yeah?
are some of those things?
Some of those things were, for instance, I'll give you an example. I have a really close friend of mine who lived in Toronto when I lived in Atlanta, and we were in high school together, and then we went abroad together at the same time, and we've stayed friends along the way. And I've watched her go through some really heavy life stuff and just come out on top. And you know, like I think some of those changes in me have happened from watching like, whoa, what is that thing that you did to like be able to be whole after all this? Because when you watch people go through things and emerge whole, I mean, at least for me, it made me very curious. So with her, what she introduced me to was a book. And it was a very simple book written by this Jesuit priest. I think it was called Awareness or Awake? Awareness. It's a short book. I have it. Anyway. So I asked her, I mean, we used to talk as friends do. And then she shared like, you know, because you could tell I was kind of curious, and she's like, yeah, I'll give you this book when you're ready, read. So actually when I was coming for your graduation, I remember like, I was like, okay, I'm going to be on a long flight to Vancouver, so I have this book, I'm going to read it. And then like the second page, I was like, you don't even know me. Like, why are you talking to me like this? And like, it was one of those like, oh crap.
You saw yourself.
I saw myself, and it was just like, ew. So I put it away. I remember like we hadn't even reached London. By the time I was just like, nah, I can't. No. Like, because the guy is like, first of all, no one has ever done anything to you. I was like, what? Do you know what so-and-so did? Like in my head, I'm having this dialogue. And I'm just like, you don't get it. And so I put it away for a while. And then I think fast forward a while later, I opened it again. And I kind of like, because I think I had kind of like realized like, yeah, this guy like got to me. And so I started reading the book. And then that book kind of led me to so many questions about myself. And in the process, I found myself really being in my own face. Like, what the hell, you know? And realizing that there were things that I wanted to let go of and things that I wanted to hold on to. And then also just kind of being aware of the ramblings that happen in your own head. and knowing that, not that I've fixed them all, but just being aware that they exist and they are not real. And some of them are real, but like being able to sift through the muddy water. And then in the process, therapy has been another gift. I think everybody should be wealthy enough to go to therapy. I feel like so like my dream life, I have money and I can pay my therapist on a weekly basis and be like, I just want to talk. Because I really feel like therapy does what organizing a room does. Organizing your mind and being clear about what's it sounds crazy when you say what's real and what's not, but really, what is, and so for me, therapy was now another part of that journey after opening that awareness book. And then now, like, finally coming to a place where the word of God is like real in my life. Like I grew up going to church, hearing the Bible, like, okay, awesome, John 3:16, thanks. Yeah. But then really internalizing and getting to a place where it's like, whoa, every question you have is answered in this book. And now going on that journey, which is not even halfway in, for me is really exciting because it's also allowing me to unravel a lot of things. Because, you think I thought life was very individual, and then you realize there's nothing special about you because everything that you have felt, you have dealt with, it's in that book, right? Yeah. And that book is going to give you what you need and the tools you need to be able to navigate life. And then also now in that process of like finding God and having a personal relationship, meeting people who have challenged me, because I think okay, hopefully you don't become a Christian and not able to be humble. But I think that journey into Christianity has really humbled me in terms of just being like, whoa, I need forgiveness, like a lot of forgiveness, and just handling relationships in a different way. Because I think when you realize, or when you wake up, you realize how much of yourself requires grace from other people, from God, and so like it's a continuous journey.
For me, when I started having similar realizations, the song Amazing Grace started to make sense.
Right.
Because like you've had it your whole life and you're like, okay, it's cool. But then you realize like, oh, I'm the wretch. Like I'm actually a wretch.
The wretch.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then also like not letting people like push you around in the sense that like Jesus died for like nails through the skin. Like I stabbed my toe and I'm pissed. You know what I mean? And so like I'm trying not to be better at not allowing things to have the weight that they should not have in my life because you didn't die on the cross for me, so yeah.
What's that journey been like for you in terms of spirituality, religion? So like you said, which I think is common for most of us who are African, it's like you grow up going to church every Sunday or whatever. And at what point did you realize like, oh wait, I'm not sure I even know what I'm doing here in the first place?
So I think like I've always been like just an obligated church goer, and I think we even used to go to church together. And so as I'm going through this journey with like the awareness, therapy, blah, 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 I think we can call it Holy Spirit kind of enters your life once you're open and you're willing to like let those walls down and really just bow down, like, there's something bigger than yourself.
Surrender.
Right? Just surrender. Right. Surrender. And so then realizing that you don't know anything, like, okay, I'm a Christian, I am saved, and then what? And so I remember for me, it began with like taking a class, and then I took the class 2-3 weeks, and I was just like, no, it's not feeling very good. Like, I don't know much about God, but I'm not feeling it just wasn't speaking to me. So then from then on, like the journey of like trying to find a church, and like, because I felt that one thing that came out of the class that I felt wasn't for me, I did get to learn that unless I plugged into a community, it wasn't going to be sustainable. And of course, initially for me, the first panic was like, who are my friends going to be? Like, what's going to happen? And then so just kind of hopping around church to church, and then finally finding a church where I'm at home, joining like, those subgroups within the church and having people you connect with and being like, wow, you guys are actually pretty cool. And you're Christian. Awesome. And so, so that journey has been, at least now I'm in a place where it's kind of flowing. Like I have like a clique of people within the church and people who I can share with. And I think along the way, God is bringing people in my life who I can walk that journey with, because I think you really worry about like your social life.
Yeah.
And then it's like, weirdly enough, I found like I have a lot of friends who are on the same journey. And then you have friends who just God takes out of your life and you're just like new people. How awesome are you? Like there are people I've met along the way where I'm just like, I didn't think I was ready for new friends, but apparently I needed this, right? Yeah. So that's yeah.
That's relatable. Yeah, I think it's the same for me, where growing up, like church was just an errand, and then I tend to think that 20-something, the early 20-somethings tend to be very confusing, and then moreover, if you happen to be in a whole other country with like totally different values than you're used to, it's like you get so disillusioned in a sense. And for me, I think that's where the process got accelerated, was when I went to Canada, and I guess I also got immersed into the culture there in a sense. So you're forced to now have to ask yourself like, okay, what are the things I'm gonna keep with me? Because like clearly there's many people all over the world living with various different things, like which ones define who I am, or like and then coming back home, it's interesting because like you said, we have a lot of religiosity in Kenya, and I think maybe the benefit is you can't really run away from, I guess, the conversation of God, but I tend to think that maybe the way the conversation is being had here is a problem. And if you're not tuned into why you even want to have that conversation, it can lead you the totally wrong way.
Absolutely.
So it's like, yeah, it
and
has
I think
to
that's
be.
why, again, it boils down to a personal relationship. Like if you don't have a relationship with God, like anybody can convince you that they're leading you to God, and you won't know one way or the other. But once you start to explore that for yourself, I think He also equips you in a way that makes things clear for you. Because I think like now I'm at a place where the alarm bells go off and it's like, okay, I'm not going to question it. And if I'm still kind of on the fence about it, at least I know where I can go to get clarity. Because I think, yes, we are a religious society. I mean, look at Nairobi and how many churches we have. Like, there's no shortage of like, I was talking to someone yesterday, actually. She was telling me she went to a church in Nairobi, and it was like these women things where like single women who want to find husbands. It's one of these prominent churches, and so there comes a point where they're like all invited to the altar to give their gifts so that they can receive their bigger gift, right? And so she was telling me how every chick in there had like 20K in a bundle, and she didn't have money. Like this lady was like, "Gosh, you poor Christian." So she gave her 2K from her bundle, like, "Here, good luck," you know, kind of thing. And that moment for her was like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, see, you can just go give God for me. Like, if it was like a genuine thing, I think. And so anyway, I'm saying this to say that, yes, there's religion, but you must pursue your own personal relationship. And I think it's how I had a preacher one time say how God is like Wi-Fi. You know, like if the farther away you are from Wi-Fi, the signal is less. So you have to really immerse yourself in the teachings and to be able to hear Him when He's speaking. Because I think when you're far from your Wi-Fi spot, then, you know, you're also a bit disconnected. And I think it's the same thing you're saying with Canada. I truly believe like the physical distance also equates to like just being able to separate from your values and it takes a special effort for you to stay connected and immersed in, you know, because you're also in a place where you're trying to discover yourself in this new environment. And so I think just staying connected by reading the word, listening to people speak, and also having the discernment to know the person who's speaking, is it coming from where it should, or is it like their own sales pitch, right?
Amen to that. Yeah.
No, it's weird. I mean, because I think we all grow up like, I would never be those saved old people who, you know, and then it's just like, you resist, and then you get to a point where it's like, yeah, Jesus is the only way, you know? And then all of a sudden it's like, you know, you go from being a bit hesitant to being like, by the way, if you're not doing Jesus, you can't roll, you know? I mean, and just being more bold about it, I guess. Yeah. So.
Yeah, that's cool. Thank you for making time for us to have a conversation today. I hope everyone out there remembers to check out Moko Maya. and all the cool things you're doing. Congratulations on so far what you've done.
Thank you.
It's looking really good. And
Thank you.
our studios are next to each other. So like I get to see some of your work as it's going on and stuff. And I wish you all the best with everything that you have planned and going forward. And check out her Instagram. Yeah, thank you for listening to this episode of the Represented Podcast. We had Nyandia Kamawe, founder of Moko Maya, and my sister. And I hope anything that's been mentioned here, I don't know, connects to your Wi-Fi. All right.
Thank you.
If you'd like to get in touch with the Represented Podcast, feel free to hit up at Represented Podcast on Instagram or email us at representedpodcast@gmail.com. This show is hosted and created by myself, Nyandia Kamawe. Editing by Lucid and myself. Video directed by James Kamawe. Video editing by myself, Nyandia Kamawe. Intro music by Lucid and Mari Narciso.